Spider-Man first appears in Amazing Fantasy in a story that introduces Peter Parker, a high school student living with his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. While attending a science exhibit, Peter is bitten by a radioactive spider, which grants him enhanced strength, agility, and a precognitive spider sense. Initially, Peter uses his powers for personal benefit, but after failing to stop a burglar who later kills his Uncle Ben, he adopts the principle that great power entails great responsibility and becomes the superhero Spider-Man. This issue also introduces Flash Thompson, Peter's high school bully, and Liz Allen, a classmate. Spider-Man's appearance in this anthology series was not originally intended to continue, but the character's popularity led to a dedicated ongoing series. In the first issue of The Amazing Spider-Man, Peter continues to navigate life as a teenager while managing his responsibilities as Spider-Man. He deals with school, classmates like Flash, and caring for Aunt May, while also confronting criminal activity. This issue introduces J. Jonah Jameson, the publisher of the Daily Bugle and a frequent critic of Spider-Man, as well as his son John Jameson, an astronaut. The villain, the Chameleon, capable of changing his appearance, appears for the first time, and Spider-Man teams up with the Fantastic Four, marking his initial encounter with other major heroes. Superman first appears in Action Comics, where Clark Kent, a mild-mannered reporter, and his superpowered alter ego Superman are introduced. He demonstrates extraordinary strength and abilities while protecting the oppressed and combating crime. The story establishes his origin, showing that he arrived on Earth as an infant from a distant, dying planet. This issue also introduces Lois Lane, a journalist and Clark's colleague. Action Comics was an anthology series at the time, featuring multiple stories alongside Superman's debut. Following this, Superman presents his first self-titled series, revisiting and expanding his origin. The issue details his arrival on Earth, his upbringing by Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent, and his dual identity as Clark Kent and Superman. Iron Man first appears in Tales of Suspense, introducing Tony Stark, a wealthy industrialist, inventor, and head of Stark Industries. While traveling with the U.S. military in a conflict zone, Stark is critically injured by shrapnel near his heart and captured by Wong Chu, a military commander who forces him to construct weapons. Stark collaborates with Professor Yinsen, a fellow prisoner, to build a suit of powered armor that provides protection, enhances his strength, and contains a device to prevent the shrapnel from reaching his heart. Stark uses the armor to defeat Wong Chu's forces, rescue other captives, and escape, while Yinsen sacrifices himself to enable Stark's success. Iron Man continues appearing in Tales of Suspense for multiple issues before launching his first self-titled series. The solo title expands on his character and supporting cast, establishing the foundation for his ongoing narratives. Batman first appears in Detective Comics, introducing Bruce Wayne, a wealthy philanthropist who assumes the masked identity of the Batman to combat crime using his intelligence, physical skills, and resources. The debut story, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, centers on the murder of chemical industrialist Lambert and a criminal conspiracy within the company. Bruce investigates both as himself and as the Batman, gathering evidence, confronting the criminal mastermind Alfred Stryker, and rescuing the kidnapped partner Paul Rogers. Stryker is ultimately defeated when he falls into a vat of acid. This issue also marks the first appearance of Commissioner Gordon, a respected police official unaware of Bruce's secret identity. Batman's costume is dark and bat-like, but his vehicle is a conventional car, and the setting has not yet been established as Gotham City. Captain America first appears in Captain America Comics, introducing Steve Rogers, a frail young man who is initially rejected for military service. Rogers volunteers for Project Rebirth, a top-secret government program where he receives the experimental super soldier serum and is exposed to special rays that transform him into a peak human warrior with enhanced strength, agility, stamina, and accelerated healing. He adopts the identity of Captain America, wearing a costume inspired by the American flag and wielding a nearly indestructible shield. Captain America is depicted confronting Adolf Hitler, emphasizing his role as a defender against tyranny. The issue also introduces James Buchanan, Bucky Barnes, a teenage sidekick who assists Captain America in combat, and Dr. Erskine, the scientist responsible for the super soldier serum. The villain Red Skull appears as one of Captain America's earliest major adversaries. The narrative establishes Captain America as a patriotic hero actively opposing Axis-aligned forces, setting the stage for his ongoing role as a symbol of wartime resistance and national ideals. Wonder Woman first appears in All-Star Comics, introducing Princess Diana of Themyscira, an Amazon warrior princess from a hidden all-female island inhabited by the Amazons. In the story, Steve Trevor, a U.S. military pilot, crashes on the island and is found by Diana and her Amazon sister Mala, who tend to his injuries. Diana falls in love with Steve, and despite her mother Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, initially forbidding her to enter a contest among the Amazons, Diana disguises herself, competes, and wins. She is then granted a specially made costume and the name Wonder Woman. The Greek goddesses Aphrodite and Athena appear in this story, highlighting Diana's divine heritage. Shortly after, Wonder Woman receives her first full-feature story in Sensation Comics, where she returns to the human world, flying Steve Trevor back in her invisible plane. She assumes the civilian identity of Diana Prince, assisting Steve while confronting crime and danger. Thor first appears in Journey into Mystery, introducing Dr. Donald Blake, a physically disabled physician. While in Norway, Blake discovers a wooden walking stick in a cave. When he strikes the stick, it transforms into the magical hammer Mjolnir, and Blake himself becomes Thor, the Norse god of thunder. Thor gains superhuman strength, the ability to fly, and the capacity to summon storms, while Mjolnir proves indestructible and returns when thrown. In this debut, Earth faces an invasion by the Kronans, also known as the Stone Men from Saturn, who attempt to conquer the planet. Thor defeats their weapons, overcomes the mechano-monster they summon, and protects Earth. Thor continues to appear in Journey into Mystery for multiple issues, with the series eventually renamed to Thor as his character becomes central. The first comic appearance of The Flash introduces Jay Garrick, a college student who gains super speed after inhaling a mist of hard water gas during a laboratory accident. Garrick awakens from a coma, discovers his enhanced abilities, and adopts the name Flash to fight crime. This debut also presents Joan Williams, Garrick's romantic interest, and her father, Major Williams. Garrick is recognized as the original Golden Age Flash and serves as a predecessor to later Flashes. The second major Flash debut features Barry Allen, a police scientist in Central City who gains super speed after a lightning strike combined with chemical exposure. He constructs a costume that can compress into a ring and assumes the name Flash, honoring Jay Garrick. Iris West, a reporter and close ally, is introduced alongside Barry in this story. The third significant first appearance is Wally West, Barry Allen's nephew, who acquires super speed through a laboratory accident similar to Barry's. With Barry's guidance, Wally designs a smaller costume and becomes Kid Flash, serving as Barry's sidekick. The first canonical appearance of the Hulk occurs in The Incredible Hulk #1, where readers are introduced to Bruce Banner, a nuclear scientist who is exposed to a massive dose of gamma radiation during the accidental detonation of a gamma bomb. Banner saves Rick Jones, a teenager present at the test site, by pushing him to safety, but the radiation alters Banner's physiology. As a result, he transforms at night into a superhuman, gray-skinned being known as the Hulk, whenever subjected to extreme emotional stress, particularly anger. This issue also introduces Betty Ross, the daughter of a military general and a supporting figure in Banner's life, as well as General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, a high-ranking officer who becomes a recurring antagonist. The villain Yuri Topolov, later known as the Gargoyle, makes his first appearance as one of Hulk's early adversaries. The story demonstrates the duality of Banner's intelligence and the Hulk's immense strength as he confronts Topolov, establishing the character's core theme of internal struggle and the tension between human intellect and uncontrollable power. The first canonical appearance of Green Lantern introduces Alan Scott, a railroad engineer who survives a catastrophic train explosion and discovers a mystical emerald lantern. The lantern communicates with him and grants him the power to create a ring fueled by the lantern's energy, which he must recharge every 24 hours. Alan's abilities include energy projection, intangibility, and generating a protective aura. In his debut, he uses these powers to confront Albert Decker, the engineer responsible for the train sabotage. His magical ring cannot affect objects made of wood, establishing the mystical nature of his abilities. The second significant Green Lantern debut is Hal Jordan, introduced as the first human member of the interstellar Green Lantern Corps. A dying alien lantern, Abin Sur, crash lands on Earth and chooses Hal, a test pilot, as his successor, transferring his power ring to him. Hal learns to recharge the ring using a power battery, and his abilities are limited by a vulnerability to objects colored yellow. This story also introduces Carol Ferris, who becomes a central figure in Hal's life. Martian Manhunter first appears in Detective Comics number 225, in the backup story, The Strange Experiment of Dr. Erdl. The story introduces John Jones, a green-skinned Martian who is accidentally transported to Earth by Dr. Saul Erdl using a teleportation device called a robot brain. Unable to return immediately, John chooses to adapt to Earth and assumes the human identity of John Jones, a detective in the town of Middletown. Observing that Earth has a higher incidence of crime than Mars, which experienced a great evolution that nearly eliminated wrongdoing, John resolves to fight crime. He demonstrates several of his core abilities, including shape-shifting, intangibility, superhuman strength, and using mental powers to extract gold from seawater. The story also establishes his primary vulnerability, fire, which can harm or weaken him. Dr. Erdl dies of heart failure during the teleportation process, leaving John stranded on Earth and committed to using his powers for good. Aquaman's first canonical appearance occurs in More Fun Comics number 73, introducing Arthur Curry, also known as Aquaman, a hero with the ability to survive underwater, possess superhuman strength, and communicate with marine life. In the story The Submarine Strikes, Aquaman rescues survivors from a torpedoed refugee ship, towing them to safety at high speed. He then boards the attacking submarine, overcomes its crew, and sinks the vessel by punching through its hull. After being rendered unconscious, tied to weights, and thrown into the ocean, Aquaman signals his porpoise allies using glowing undersea plants. The porpoises assist him in reaching shallower water, enabling him to break free. He returns to the enemy base and uses a returned hand grenade to trigger a larger explosion, defeating his attackers. The issue also provides Aquaman's origin. His father, an undersea explorer, discovered a sunken city and passed on scientific knowledge that allowed Arthur to breathe underwater, develop enhanced strength and speed, and gain mental abilities. It is noted that his mother died when he was very young. This story establishes Aquaman as a hero, connected to both the surface world and the mysteries of the ocean. Doctor Strange's first canonical appearance occurs in Strange Tales number 110, introducing Dr. Stephen Strange, a highly skilled but arrogant neurosurgeon who becomes the master of black magic. The story begins with a man plagued by recurring nightmares. Strange agrees to intervene by projecting his consciousness into the astral plane, a mystical dimension where his spirit can operate independently of his physical body. In this realm, he seeks the guidance of the Ancient One, a powerful sorcerer who serves as his mentor. During the story, Strange encounters Nightmare, a supernatural entity that feeds on fear. Using the amulet of Agamotto, he casts a spell to weaken Nightmare's influence. Returning to his body, Strange prevents the man from committing a crime influenced by the nightmare. This issue also introduces supporting elements that become central to Strange's narrative, including the Ancient One and his assistant Wong, who appears unnamed. The story hints at Strange's base of operations, the Sanctum Sanctorum, which later becomes his headquarters. While Strange's transformation from surgeon to sorcerer is revealed in later issues, this appearance establishes his capabilities as a mystic hero, including magical manipulation, astral projection, and confrontation with supernatural threats. Cyborg first appears in DC Comics number 26, introducing Victor Stone, a young man transformed by cybernetic enhancements into the hero known as Cyborg. His mechanical augmentations provide superhuman strength, enhanced durability, advanced sensory systems, and the ability to interface with computers. This debut occurs within an insert story titled Where Nightmares Begin, which serves as a preview for the new Teen Titans series. In this story, Victor is presented alongside future Titans members. The issue establishes Cyborg as one of the founding members of the new Teen Titans. Victor's backstory includes his father, Silas Stone, a scientist at Star Labs, who is instrumental in Victor's cybernetic transformation. Wolverine first appears in The Incredible Hulk, number 180, in a brief cameo as a mysterious, snarling figure in a distinctive costume. This teaser marks his initial introduction, though he does not play an active role in the story. His first full appearance occurs in The Incredible Hulk, number 181, which presents Logan, later known as Wolverine, as a mutant with enhanced senses, regenerative healing, and retractable claws. In this issue, he encounters the Hulk in a remote, wintry wilderness and also confronts Wendigo, a monstrous creature from Canadian folklore. Wolverine and the Hulk temporarily team up to battle Wendigo before their alliance collapses, leading to a direct confrontation between the two. This story establishes Wolverine's defining characteristics, including his ferocity, mysterious background, and status as a lethal, untamed warrior. Green Arrow first appears in More Fun Comics number 73, which introduces Oliver Queen, a wealthy playboy and expert archer who assumes the identity of the costumed hero Green Arrow. In this issue, his young ward and sidekick, Roy Speedy Harper, also makes his first appearance. In the story The Green Arrow, Oliver and Roy use trick arrows and archery skills to confront Ezra Sampson, also known as the Masked Man, who is murdering members of a history club to conceal financial crimes. They employ both conventional and specialized arrows and travel using the Aeroplane, a high-speed, arrow-shaped aircraft. The story demonstrates Green Arrow's ingenuity, mastery of archery, and dedication to justice, while Speedy displays agility and loyalty. The narrative concludes with Green Arrow disabling Samson's getaway car, causing it to crash, illustrating the morally complex scenarios common in Golden Age storytelling. This issue also establishes Green Arrow's use of the arrow signal to summon him, and highlights his early use of advanced crime-fighting technology. Shazam first appears in Wiz Comics number 2, which introduces Billy Batson, an orphaned newsboy whose life changes when a mysterious figure guides him into an underground subway car that leads to the Rock of Eternity. There, Billy meets the ancient wizard Shazam, who designates him as his champion. The wizard explains that 6 mythological figures, Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury, grant Billy specific powers. By speaking the wizard's name, Shazam, Billy is transformed into an adult superhero known as Captain Marvel, later referred referred to as Shazam. In this debut, Captain Marvel uses his abilities, including super strength and speed, to stop Dr. Sivana, a scientist who has constructed a device to disrupt radio transmissions and extort a city. The issue also introduces Sterling Morris, a station manager at Wiz Radio, who nearly discovers Billy's secret identity. The earliest account of the group known as the Fantastic Four describes a privately launched space mission led by Reed Richards, accompanied by Ben Grimm, Susan Storm, and Johnny Storm. The crew undertakes an unauthorized flight into space, during which their vessel is exposed to intense cosmic radiation. After returning to Earth, each member experiences a distinct transformation linked to the radiation that struck the ship. Reed gains the capacity to extend and reshape his body, adopting the name Mr. Fantastic. Susan develops the ability to vanish from sight and becomes the Invisible Girl. Johnny acquires control over fire and can envelop himself in flames as the Human Torch. Ben undergoes a physical mutation that alters his appearance into a rock-covered form and grants him substantial strength, leading him to take the name The Thing. Upon discovering their altered states, the four confront a threat posed by the Mole Man, who commands creatures dwelling beneath the planet's surface. Their cooperation during this incident leads them to continue operating as a unified team. Through this decision, Reed, Susan, Johnny, and Ben establish themselves as a permanent group committed to addressing extraordinary dangers. The Justice League of America makes its first canonical appearance in The Brave and the Bold, number 28, in the story Starro the Conqueror. This issue brings together several major superheroes to confront the alien invader Starro, a giant starfish-like entity. The founding members introduced in this story are Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Barry Allen, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter, John Jones. In the story, Aquaman first detects Starro in the ocean and uses his communicator to summon the other heroes. Wonder Woman leaves her engagement with Steve Trevor to join the mission, while the Flash creates a water vortex to trap one of Starro's duplicates. Green Lantern, aided by Snapper Carr, a young boy who becomes the League's honorary member and signal device operator, uses Lime to counter Starro's mind control abilities and imprison the villain. Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman also collaborate to rescue captured scientists. The League establishes its base in a secret sanctuary hidden inside a mountain cavern. The Avengers make their first canonical appearance in the Avengers #1. In this issue, several major heroes are brought together for the first time to form a team in response to a crisis orchestrated by the villain Loki, the Asgardian trickster god. The founding members introduced are Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, Ant-Man Hank Pym, a scientist with the ability to shrink, and the Wasp, a heroine who can shrink and fly. The story follows the heroes as they, initially unfamiliar with one another, coordinate to thwart Loki's scheme. Rick Jones, a teenage ally, summons the heroes using a radio, facilitating their assembly. During the crisis, Ant-Man proposes the formation of a team, and the Wasp names the group the Avengers. This issue establishes the team's collaborative dynamic and their first coordinated effort as a unit. Robin, Kid Flash, and Aqualad first operate as a unit in an early story of The Brave and the Bold, where they respond to a crisis involving Mr. Twister, an adversary who employs a staff capable of generating storms, controlling the elements, and unleashing destructive weather patterns. The three young heroes coordinate their abilities to counter his actions, and the confrontation concludes when Robin uses his line and grappling device to remove the staff from Mr. Twister's control, ending the threat. At this stage, the group has not yet adopted the Teen Titans name, though their cooperation establishes the foundation of the team that would later include Wonder Girl, who joins them when the title is first used in a subsequent adventure. This initial collaboration is generally regarded as the point at which the core trio first functions together as a team, forming the basis for what later becomes known as the Teen Titans. The X-Men first appear as a team at Professor Charles Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, where he trains young mutants to use their abilities responsibly. The founding members introduced in this debut are Scott Summers, known as Cyclops, who emits powerful optic blasts; Jean Grey, called Marvel Girl, who possesses telekinesis; Hank McCoy, known as Beast, with superhuman strength, agility, and intellect; Bobby Drake, called Iceman, who can generate and manipulate ice; and Warren Worthington III, known as Angel, who has large wings that enable flight. In this initial story, the team confronts their first adversary, Magneto, a mutant capable of controlling magnetic fields. The narrative begins at Xavier's school and extends to a mission where the X-Men attempt to thwart Magneto's plan, which involves a missile base protected by a magnetic barrier. This issue establishes the concept of mutants as a distinct group with extraordinary powers and positions the X-Men as a team dedicated to defending humanity from threats posed by malevolent mutants.